Hello, good afternoon.
All right, Prof, thank you so very much for joining us. I'm going to start off from my studio guest, Dr. Peter. As it stands, it's looking more like some of these nations that have moved off ECOWAS seem to be finding it a bit, I don't want to use the word easy, but a bit interesting in trying to curb insurgency in their country. Looking at Niger's Republic recent development, 13 insurgents killed in an illegal gold mine raid. What's your position about the positives that have been made so far on the part of insurgency in some of these Sahel nations, and of course, including Niger Republic?
Well, for me, since the balkanization of Iraq and Libya,
right,
guns, this fall within the Sahel
States.
region. So guns, because now Iraq is a non-est country, Libya is a non-est country. So arms and ammunition are coming from those countries down to the Sahel region.
Okay.
And that's what these terrorist bandits are using. So, and in order to stop it, their sources of finance need to be cut.
Okay.
So I feel that's what led to the invasion of the mines. Because once they have resources,
right,
they can buy arms, they can buy food, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
They can even buy technological equipment. They can even have drones and sophisticated weapons. So the best thing is to cut their source of finance. And when you do that, you have at least win or the war by 50%.
Okay, I like this part of financing that you brought to the fold now, and I'm going to go straight to you. Prof, interestingly, Niger Republic on its major crackdown, the gold mine crackdown on jihadist financing, from your perspective, could this be a turning point for Niger fighting terrorism in the Sahel region as it stands presently?
Region, because even without insurgency, this place has its own problems.
Right.
The weather is not the best, the economic growth is not the best. So if now you bring insurgency in such an economic and weather situation, the consequences are very dire for the normal population, for the ordinary person. So I think it is high time Niger and other Sahel countries put concerted efforts to stop terrorism. Now, I'm very saddened when I find that one of the areas the terrorists are targeting is minerals, because that's the national wealth. And if you can target and get hold of the wealth, gold or whatever it is, then you can use that to buy arms. So what I'm foreseeing, or what I'm seeing in the Sahel region, is the withdrawal of the French forces left a vacuum. And that vacuum is easily being taken over by jihadists. I am sure that Russians are also there. But you can be sure that the ultimate solution to Niger's problem, the ultimate solution to the Sahel problem, is within the Sahel itself. These people who are opportunists coming to try and take minerals from Niger or Sahel should be stopped by Nigerians themselves, by the people of Sahel themselves, by coming together and realizing that is their national heritage. So it might be a turning point if the other Sahel region or Sahel countries support Niger and make sure that the rightful owners of these minerals get money from them, and that money is used to improve the living standards of the people. Because I can assure you that one of the reasons why this place is very unstable is because of poverty. The economic growth has been stagnant, and the high time we use those minerals to improve the living standards of the people of Sahel, the children, the men, and the women.
This whole conversation about financing this jihadist group, what are the real risks of jihadist group financing violence through illegal mining in West African border regions? What are the real risk implications of all of this?
I think the best option is to cut the supply chain. I remember when I was a small boy, we tried to kill a snake And I remember my mom telling me that the best way to kill a snake is to hit its head, crush the head.
Okay.
So whoever is financing this, whoever is financing this insurgency should be crushed in the head. And whoever it is, we must get the person, because if we don't get the source of that financing, any effort to end insurgency in the Sahel will not succeed. So let's get the financiers, let's get them out, and it's the only way we are going to fight peace in the Sahel, economic growth, and peace for Nigerians and other Sahelians.
Yes, again, financing of terrorism is something quite disturbing across Africa. I'm going to come to the studio before I come back to you, Prof, on the Kenyan situation. Doctor, as it stands now, Niger seems to wanting to get it right. The Sahelian regions are kind of, some persons have said it's overflooded with the impact of the French leaving the Sahelian region. Is that a possibility that the West is still a bit involved in the unrest around the Sahelian region as we speak?
Well, the truth is that some countries do sponsor terrorism in other countries, just for the mineral resources there, because if the government is functioning well, they may not have the access. But if there's crisis, understand, because what these terrorist groups do is a kind of divide of the country.
Right.
Understand me? When they divide of the country, they could be now mining these resources and be sending to those powers, maybe foreign powers, and that's what is happening in Congo as we speak. Since independence, Congo has never known peace. And where there's no peace, there can never be development.
Right.
So these foreign powers who are interested in the mineral resources in Congo are sponsoring terrorism and all kinds of evil acts, so that there will not be cohesion on the part of the government. This is the only way they can be taking out their natural resources illegally.
Okay.
So some Western powers do this. It's not strange that CIA have been involved in assassination of presidents in Africa, just for their own interest.
Oh, well, we definitely will be putting our eyes on these conversations as they develop in the coming days. Prof, I'm going to come to you at this point. The situation in Kenya, I'm talking about that of police brutality. You would recall that when this particular story broke, we were with you on this same platform. And of course, you had your voice on that particular topic. But then, one thing that comes to mind is the fact that the president did say that the act by the police was uncalled for and that the people were going to be brought to book. But at the time the president made his speech, the Deputy Inspector General of Police was still in office. But as it stands this beautiful day, we hear that Deputy Police Chief Louis Legarde has stepped down for proper investigation to be carried out. You would also recall that a constable had been arrested as a result of these whole conversation about bringing to justice whoever carried out those dastardly acts. First off, what's the situation in Nairobi as we speak? Because we understand that a major protest was going on last week with tear gas all around the places. We have footages of it as well. And interestingly, this seemed to be the situation as of last week. But let's have your view on what is happening in Nairobi today. And of course, what's your take about the stepping down of the Deputy Inspector General of Police in Kenya?
Somebody who wrote a very interesting article online today talking about police brutality, and he argued that it has origin in the colonial period. If you remember, during the Kenya's fight for the independence, a lot of people lost their lives because of police brutality. They were taken to detention centers. They were tortured, and some of them died. So some people think that the police brutality has origins in the colonial period. It was handed over to independence, and we have not been able to improve on it despite a new constitution and despite a lot of efforts to stop that from human rights activists and the Kenyan citizens. as you put it, the deputy director of police stepped aside, I think, yesterday.
Yes.
And we expected people to celebrate that, but what I'm finding in the media is people are saying that's not enough. Because what people are asking is, if a young man had to die in the heart of police, whoever was involved, whether it was a constable, whether it was director or the inspector general of police, whoever was involved in the whole surprise chain should be held accountable. And people are saying that stepping aside is not enough. The law should take its course. Anybody who was involved should go to court, should be tried, so that we know the truth. And we hope, and hopefully through that, we are going to stop police brutality. Because the argument among Kenyans is that in a democratic country, people should not die without a cause. Right. Anybody who causes somebody to die should be held accountable, and not through the mob justice, but through the rule of law. So Kenyans are following very keenly to find out what will happen now that the Inspector General of Police Deputy has stepped down. We are finding out who else will be held culpable, but the law must take its course.
And one thing that comes to mind, Prof, and I'm just going to stay with you, is the fact that, yes, you did mention that the people are saying that it is not enough. So what that translates to across Africa is the fact that there's a major trust deficit within the government and the people. But let's look at the fact that the Deputy Inspector General has temporarily stepped down in all of this conversation. Public trust when it comes to the police and the people is a major conversation. From your perspective, Prof, would you say that with these stepping down of the Deputy Inspector General of Police, they might just in any way soon see that trust being regained again in the nearer days?
It's not just a baby step. We need to do more to restore the public trust in the police, in the security forces.
Right.
Because if you look at any democratic country, if you have a dispute or if you have any problem, you go to the police, you report to the police. And it's not just in Kenya, it's not in Nigeria, it is in any country. The police are supposed to safeguard your security, to help settle disputes. So the moment the police, you feel you're not secure under the police, you create a very serious problem. Because people might say the police cannot be trusted. So who do you trust? And people might start taking law into their hearts. So I think stepping aside was a step in the right direction, but most Kenyans feel it's not enough. We need to do more than that. So that in a democratic country, we don't fear the police. We see them as protectors. We see them as people who can be trusted. And that's how security is restored, how trust is restored, and how that's how democracy thrives. So I think it's a good step, but not enough.
Okay, now I like the fact that you said it's a good step, but not enough. I'm going to come to the studio, and of course, I'll come back to you afterwards. Dr. Peter, interestingly, as it stands, the young man, the blogger, and of course, the teacher, 31-year-old, is dead. And of course, no amount of funding can bring back the life of this man. But then the question goes to say, as it stands, the Deputy Inspector General of Police has just stepped down temporarily for this investigation to be carried out. Some quarters have said that this is not enough. But some of the persons are saying, would the Deputy Inspector General of Police also be interrogated and arrested if found culpable? Because you know, in Africa, such big wings rarely, when they're in power, rarely goes, to the book when it comes to accounting for wrongs done. From your perspective, do you think this can see a better conclusion, so to say?
Well, for me, I want to say that democracy is higher in Kenya than in Nigeria. Far higher.
How do you mean?
How many people died under end bad governance? Understand? How many people died under NSAS? Did anybody step aside? Did anybody step down? The IG was there. The Deputy Inspector General were there. No policeman was sacked. No policeman was suspended. Understand me? So what we are hearing everywhere is police is your friend. Police is never our friend. Understand me? there's police brutality everywhere in the world, even in America, even in Britain. That's what I mean. So police is not anybody's friend. So for him stepping aside, I think it shows that
there would be some level of credibility in the
there's
investigation.
credibility, understand me, because his presence would interfere with the investigation.
Right.
So now he is out of office temporarily. There will be a kind of wholesome investigation. So stepping aside, though it's not enough, but it is a good beginning.
Okay.
And I want other countries in Africa to emulate what the deputy do, because in Africa people don't resign. Accuse them of whatever, they will remain in office.
Well, another conversation that goes in all of this is the fact that some quarters have said that it is because of the consistent protest of the people of Kenya as a result of this entire situation that have made the Deputy Inspector General to have stepped aside temporarily. Don't you think that's another yardstick to anything at all?
For me, it's an advance in democracy.
Okay.
Because the number of people that died during NSAS did not die in Kenya. The number of people that died during bad governance in Nigeria did not die in Kenya. Still, nobody stepped down from the police. Understand me?
Right.
So after that Nigeria police should be learning from what is happening in Kenya and other countries.
All right. Well, let's also bring Prof to this. Prof, as it stands, the Deputy Inspector General has stepped down, and some quarters are saying, will the president also carefully make sure that he is answering to any question that comes to him? One of the questions would be, who ordered the arrest of this young man? Who ordered the transporting of this young man from point A to point B, where his death finally caught up with him? And then another question that comes to mind would be, who will be held accountable in all of this? Would the DIG be held accountable, or would younger officers be held accountable? From your perspective, what's your answer on that part? And then, what's the position of the lawmakers in Kenya with this situation?
I think that's not a very complicated issue, because if you look at how this young man died, he was picked from Western Kenya, brought to Nairobi, until he died in a hospital, and he was taken to hospital. So there's a whole supply chain from Western Kenya, transported to Nairobi, and in each of the steps he went through, there was somebody involved. So what people are saying is that whoever was involved in the death of this person, whether you are high, whether you are mighty, whether you are small, should be held accountable. Because I'm sure at every step before he died, some people are involved. So we are saying it doesn't matter who it is, let these people be taken to court, let's get the truth, and let the people who did that, who participated in the death of the young man, be held accountable. And that's what the lawyers are saying, that's what the churches are saying, that's what human rights groups are saying, that we should not condemn people just like that. Let them be taken to court, whoever they are, whatever their position, and then the courts of law will determine who is culpable and who is not. And that's what democracy should all be about.
Right. All right. Now, I'm going to just still stay with you because of time. And I'm going to ask you something that also pertains to the Kenyan lawmakers opposing tax authorities' bid for unrestricted data access. Taxpayers' money, taxpayers' data, I beg your pardon, at this point in a country where celebrated, according to some quarters in Africa, democracy seems to be enjoyed a little bit more in Kenya. Looking at the fact that the Kenyan lawmakers are opposing this tax authority bid for unrestricted data access, do you think that this is somewhat, some persons not wanting to show credibility when it comes to tax paying?
That's an interesting question, because we have been debating about the privacy laws in this country. But how much power should Kenya Revenue Authority be given to access our data?
Okay.
And people feel there's sufficient law to safeguard that. Because if you allow KRA to access my data, how much will they access? Of course, somebody argues that they probably want to just access my financial data, but they may go beyond that. And how sure am I that they are going to use data for the right cause? So some people feel that if KRA is allowed to access our data, it might be used for witch hunting. It might be used for hunting, for punishing some Kenyans because of their political affiliation, because of their political direction. So what I insist is, if Kenya Revenue Authority has to access our data, it should always be through a court order or through something like a warrant. So that they don't just copy, they don't just access my data just like that. There should be some legal system involved, either from the judge, from the magistrate, so that we know exactly what they are looking for and why they are looking for it, not just haphazardly or randomly.
All right, well, let me come to the studio, and of course we'll wrap up this conversation here. Doctor, again, this is lawmakers saying, no, this shouldn't fly. And some quarters have said that the lawmakers seem to have a lot under their table that they're trying to cover because, of course, finances within the political space is not rarely revealed as it were all across Africa. What's your position in this conversation?
For me, it's also an advancement because the nine here, NIN, invaded our privacy, but we didn't complain. Understand me? Somebody having access to your NIN knows everything about you. Understand me?
Right.
And he can use it positively or negatively. So our rights in Nigeria was infringed upon. We just take it like that. We didn't complain. So those of them that one, for you to infringe on somebody's right, you must come with a warrant. Understand? You must come with a warrant stating specifically what the information or they want and what it should be used for. So, but somebody might be saying that maybe the lawmakers have something to hide. No, it is their civic right that they are protected.
Okay, all right. That's a very, very good place to anchor this conversation. I mean, civic rights, protecting it is very, very key when it comes to, our data. And of course, for a country that has data like that, it should be protected. Well, this is where we have to draw the curtain in the analysis segment of the African News this beautiful afternoon. I want to say a big thank you to our analysts in here. And I'm talking about Dr. Peter Anosike, who is Voice of the People TV's in-house political affairs analyst and, of course, an economist by profession. And all the way from Kenya, Professor XN Iraqi, professor with the University of Nairobi. Once again, gentlemen, thank you for being here.
Thank you, and have a good afternoon.
Have a great afternoon, Professor.